These are the members of our panel today. Jim Muth is the owner of the Beaufort House Inn and representing the Asheville Bed and Breakfast Association. Jim is also a member of the Tourism Development Authority. Barbara Melton is the vice chair of the Coalition of Asheville Neighborhoods. Chip Craig is the owner of Graybeard Realty, and he'll be speaking as a vacation property manager and realtor. Kim Award, really appreciate that she was willing to be with us today. We just recently became introduced to her, and she was very nice to agree to sit on the panel with us. She is a short-term rental property owner. Kit Kramer, of course, is the president of the chamber. So Jeff is going to help with some timing, and we're going to start with Jim Muth.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to try and simplify some of this stuff because I know some of the things look kind of intimidating for a short-term rental, but I think the fact that we're here today is kind of a testament to the success of the business community over the last several years. I mean, we've had kind of an explosive growth, as Stephanie talked about. I think we ought to be grateful and recognize that the challenges we're facing are really growing pains. It's kind of a good problem to have. And while there might be some emotionality, it's really just business. How are we going to manage our growth and work together in a way that serves the entire community the most? I've kind of got three key constituents to take a look at. One is the traveling public. How can we guarantee the safety and security of them and that they have a good experience when they come here? Secondly, our brand reputation. What is the experience that people have when they're here? This economic engine that Stephanie talked about is really driving a tremendous impact on not just the tourism area, but everybody who works here, from the massage therapist to the accountant to the builder to everyone in the community has experiencing positive impact from the tourism that we receive here. And then finally, our communities. Last week at the Downtown Association, one of the award winners said he really wanted Asheville to be both livable and lovable. And I think that's really kind of good. We really want the quality of life, affordable housing, many of the things that are important to us as residents should be considered in the decisions that are made relative to this unique situation. So I think if you look at the B&Bs, B&Bs are the most like the short-term rentals because our properties are in the community. We are aware of what impact it has on the community for our parking, our guests, if there's noise or other kinds of things. So we're really trying to look at an awareness of how can we make some decisions that will impact this. First of all, B&Bs are not against short-term rentals. We think there's definitely a place for this lodging product in our marketplace. But I don't see it as a competition. I mean, there's really, there are no occupancy in this city on a weekend between the spring and through the fall. You can't get a room here, including probably in most of the short-term rentals. We've also got a very collegial lodging community. I mean, I refer to the other B&Bs. I mean, we're in a B&B association. We all work together. I guess we're technically competitors, but we raise the bar for each other. We support each other. We refer to each other. We learn from each other. I mean, I can tell you when all of us came from our previous corporate jobs and had this romantic notion about taking on a B&B, and then we realized, wow, there's a lot that goes into assuring the safety and providing a good service to people who are the traveling public. And so we've continued to learn over time. I think one of the difficulties right now is that there's really no source of information for people who want to start a short-term rental. Nobody can go and say, where's the book? And as a matter of fact, even 2 or 3 years into being a B&B owner, you'd be talking to some of your colleagues and say, oh, really? We got to do that? I didn't realize that. So there's a lot, there's nowhere that you can find the information. So I mean, I think the city fathers 20 years ago really understood the need for this short-term rental product when they put together the UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance, that really said, and they identified a thing called homestays for people who wanted to have 2 or 3 rooms in their houses that they could rent to people, and they identified the criteria that were required for that. Last January, Judy Daniels, who was head of city planning, put together her group, and they came up with a revised version of it to meet today's current needs. And so they took out a couple of things. They said, gee, they really don't have to do breakfasts. And a couple of other things. Their square footage doesn't have to be 2,500 square feet. It can be much smaller than that. And so there were a number of things that they did to modify that. Last month, the city had commissioned a study from Urban Planning Analytics, and they came up with a very extensive piece of research on what kinds of recommendations should be made to make the short-term rental community work. And they looked at communities from across the country, from Portland over North Carolina and everything else. And so I think the main thing is that there's plenty of details there that we should pay attention to. And they've got a lot of recommendations, and basically the B&B recommendations are very consistent with that. One of the things I would say is that one of the reasons we've had this explosive growth is because, as we all know, Asheville is cool. But it's more than Asheville being cool. It's really, people have to know that it's cool. And one of the reasons for that is the work of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I mean, Stephanie talked a little bit about it, but I think for people who haven't been exposed to it, you have no idea how much effort goes into the 7 full-time salespeople who are out there selling across the country to all kinds of travel people, to corporate travel, they made 8,500 contacts last year, person-to-person contacts. They had over 100 journalists here. If you wonder why we're on 25 of the top lists of the best of Asheville, it's because of the work that these people are doing. The other piece about the work of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, if I can put my TDA on for a second, is that we don't really see the work here because they're not allowed to do ads here, to do TV advertisement. But if you lived in Charlotte, Raleigh, any of the other cities around, you can tell me all the cities there. But I mean, all the major cities that we're working in, you'd be amazed at what a cool town this is. And you would be amazed that you'd want to come here if you weren't here already. So I mean, I think the key thing is from the Bed and Breakfast Association, I'll just take a couple more minutes to close this up. The key things that we think should be done is that the occupancy tax is an important thing because that funds the Convention and Visitors Bureau. You are not paying it, your guest is paying it. The guests who come to town, you collect it from them, they pay for our marketing. That's 3%. The 1% goes to the Tourism Product Development Fund that funds things like the Art Museum, the Civic Center, Pack Square, River Arts District, Azalea Park, soccer fields. We funded some baseball fields at Inca this year. They're all huge things that benefit the community. So it's not really about just tourism, but it's about the quality of life for everybody who lives here. So I think the main things that we're recommending is that, of course, as Lynn said, that the properties be registered. Secondly, that they collect the occupancy tax. I think that's an important distinction. You're not paying it, you're collecting it and remitting it. Third, that they have some insurance for liability. One thing I've learned as a bed and breakfast owner is that people will break your stuff. Unintentionally, not maliciously, but the tubs will overflow, the curtain will be left out of the, shower curtain will be left out of the tub, people will burn stuff, they'll set irons down. Your liability insurance isn't going to cover all that. If someone falls and hurts themselves, you could have issues with that, and your liability insurance won't, your property and casualty won't cover those things either. So I think you could sell doing these kinds of things to say that you're an inspected inn as a benefit, or an inspected property as a benefit that makes you unique and puts you in line with the other kinds of lodging properties that are around. Finally, a couple other things. Off-street parking. I know when we got parking in our place, we can really disrupt the neighborhood if we don't have everyone parked in our parking lot. Somebody comes in with a big truck or a trailer or something like that, it gets in the way of our neighborhood. We live in the neighborhoods like you, so we really think that that's important, that we respect and don't create the kind of environment where the neighbors don't enjoy the tourism that's in town that we really benefit from. We think that there also ought to be an on-site manager. You wouldn't leave your teenagers at home. And I think that that's a similar kind of thing. People behave better when there's someone on the property. Believe me, that's the truth. And other kinds of things like certain occupancy limits. There can be minimal. The original homestay rules had certain numbers of houses, certain numbers of rooms, and certain numbers of people to limit, so that the thing is primarily a residence for the people who are living there, who also have additional rooms that they're renting out. So I think there are a number of guidelines that you can mess around with, but the main thing is that at some point there ought to be information available for people who are trying to get into the short-term rental business so they know what the rules are. There ought to be not only guidelines for them, but some type of enforcement. And there ought to be some type of mentoring so that people can help them figure out how to get through the initial wickets of what's required so that they're both good neighbors and also good contributors to the obliging community. Thanks.
I'm Barbara Melton. I'm one of the rare breed here in this room, probably. I'm a native of this area going back 5 generations. I got involved in neighborhood activism here about 28 years ago when I am one of the founders of the Coalition of Asheville Neighborhoods. I've been with that organization ever since, and I visit council on a regular basis, serve on a lot of committees, work with county commissioners, state legislators on different things. Coalition of Asheville Neighborhoods, if you do not know, represents a large number of neighborhoods in this city. And we try to educate our members about different issues. We work with the city, the county, on zoning and UDO and anything else that's going to affect the neighborhood. And we provide technical assistance, and we'll go with neighborhoods to whatever limit we can for the concerns that they have. Our problem with this is that neighborhoods are being inundated. We have been discovered, which is a good thing. We all know that this is not going to go away. When our Coalition of Neighborhoods had 4 different big sessions and had city staff come in, we had a lot of speakers. We had those that are for this and those that are against it. We had a good turnout, and we are very concerned with this. We're concerned because neighborhoods are fragile. Neighbors need to know who they can call. We have one short-term rental that the owner is in the Virgin Islands. Well, if somebody's having a whoopee party next door, it's going to be a little hard for that owner to take care of it. We need to have a clear, precise permitting ordinance, know where these are, get them to pay the taxes. Let's level up the playing field, and let's work with the business community, the neighborhoods, and all of us so that we can get a handle on this before it gets worse. And it affects affordable housing. I sit on the Affordable Housing Committee. It affects it big time. And the reason it does is that we only have like 0.8% in rental property vacancy. So if you can make more money with short-term rentals, what are you going to do with your house? Hello? I want to see this community come together, come to a good solution. And Cam wants to be a part of it. We will work with our city folks, our state folks. We will work with neighborhoods anywhere and everywhere, whether your neighborhood belongs to us or not, it doesn't matter. Come to us, we will help you any way we can. And we are looking forward to getting this problem on the radar, on the state's radar, and let's get this solved. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Chip Craig. I'm the owner of Graybeard Realty. The good news is I agree with about probably 97% of what's been said today. I wasn't sure if I would or not sitting here. We manage, I've been doing this 16 years, we manage 175 vacation rentals in Buncombe County. We manage those, we don't own any of them, we manage them for individuals. We also do traditional real estate brokerage. There are other companies that do what we do. There's probably about 5 or 6. I think we might be the largest, but there are others that do what we do. I have not talked to them, so this is the Chip Craig version, Chip Craig opinion. It is not a group opinion. We already do a lot of the things that have been discussed today. There is a Vacation Rental Act that requires, and I have to be a licensed real estate broker to license other homes, to manage other homes. There are certain requirements for leases. We have to keep monies in trust accounts. It requires a brokerage license. The landlord has to provide a fit premise. We have to comply with all current applicable building and zoning codes. In addition to that, as a professional manager, we do a fire safety inspection prior to renting a house. We do annual fire checkups every year. We have a 24-hour emergency service, which is us. It rings to one of our cell phones 24 hours a day. We pay sales tax and occupancy tax. I was actually audited last year by the Buncombe County Tax Authority. I'm still here in front of you. We require all our homeowners to have proof of insurance and liability in their file. We stop managing houses when we get complaints. It's our reputation. If we think something's unsafe, we ask the homeowner to fix it. This year we actually had the building inspector from Black Mountain go to one of our houses because we were having an argument with our homeowner. So we said, okay, if the building inspector approves it, then we'll go with not need to fix it. Reviews in today's environment are so important. I mean, my business is all about reviews and what people think. TripAdvisor, Flipkey. And I'll brag a little bit about our company and the quality of their experience. I looked at December of this year. These are online reviews from a scale from 1 to 5. How would you rate your overall experience? The rating was 4.79. How would you rate your property management company, Graybeard Realty? 4.9 from a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best. The customer experience at Graybeard is strong. I find it frustrating that the city has this ordinance that doesn't allow vacation rentals, but then doesn't enforce it. It kind of leaves me, I don't want to grow a business that's illegal, so we've stayed out of trying to grow the city limit, and we're outside the city limits. And yet there's plenty of businesses and vacation rentals inside the city limits. So from my personal opinion, I'd rather than just have rules and regulations, or enforce the fact that you can't do vacation rentals. A few misconceptions about vacation rentals. One is that it provides a positive cash flow. I mean, there may be some, but I mean, out of our 175, we don't have one single homeowner that does it for an investment reason. These are people that are doing it as second homes. These are people that are planning on retiring here. These are people that just inherited a house and don't want to sell it and want to use it occasionally. It's not for profit, or I own some, and I do not own any. Vacation rentals hurt affordable housing, and that was the 2% that I didn't really, or 3% I didn't really agree with what Barbara said. Just the dynamics don't work. These people want really nice houses when they come here. I'm amazed at how nice these houses need to be. And their expectations are high. And there's no way you can take a vacation rental and rent it long term for less than $3,000 a month. I mean, these are really nice homes. People from Florida, when they come up here, they want something better than their house in Florida. When people come to me and say, I'm thinking about investing in vacation property and make a profit, I was like, don't do that, go to long term, that's where the profit is. Do we have parties in our houses? I hear that all the time, that it's just party houses. Most of our renters are families, I mean, most of them, and we don't really compete that much with the hotel business because it's family-oriented for the most part. We have 7 homes in the village of Cheshire, which is one of the most exclusive areas in Black Mountain, and we don't have complaints. Have we had fraternities rent? Yes. We've had 2, and it was an awful experience. I was there at midnight. I was there at 3 in the morning, trying with the police, getting rid of them. 20 seconds. But we've also rented over 30,000 times. So the ratio of our fraternities to rentals is 1 in 15,000. Again, thank you all for the opportunity to speak. I hope that the city will consider the ordinance and make it a fair playing field where the honest business people can participate in the city. Thank you.
Yesterday, so I've had less than 24 hours to prepare. And I'm only representing myself, but with the knowledge is that I'm in groups, like a Facebook group that's for short-term rentals. And I've had a short-term rental since fall of 13. It's our former residence that we want to return to. It's not in the city limits, and that's one of the reasons I'm up here, because people were afraid that they're in the city limits. They didn't want to come up here and speak. So last year was my first time renting, and talk about cash flow. I lost about $7,000 because I had to do some more capital stuff. And that was okay, because my intention is to return to that after my children are out of school. They're in school in Asheville. I'm a long-term resident, by the way, and a native of North Carolina, at least 10 generations. And, and I love it here, and I continue to be here. And one of the things I did was I co-founded a nonprofit, a radio station called Asheville FM, which will soon be on the air, and I was the co-manager of that, and I've also been active in some political campaigns. All right, so the things that are great is that we agreed with 3.5 of your goals, Lynn. And that is registration. This is what almost every single responsible owner says. I want to be able to register. And when they register, they get a best practices folder that says, you must pay taxes, because believe me, any person who is renting a home, a room, a tent, a bus, anything else anywhere in North Carolina is right now obligated to pay both sales and occupancy tax. If you're not doing that, you're violating the law, so look into it with your city and county. And also safety, we want safety. I have smoke detectors, I put in the CO, I bought fire extinguishers for all 3 of my levels, and I have a emergency plan and all emergency contacts and double backup if we're ever out of town within a short period of time, you know, either my neighbors or another handyman that I know. So we are required, North Carolina vacation rentals are required by the North Carolina Vacation Rental Act 1999 to comply with residential housing codes and safety with fire extinguishers, etc. And the only thing that I'd say where we might have a little bit of a disagreement is that short-term rentals are considered residential instead of a commercial business as far as the state of North Carolina goes. What I can tell is that it's very distinct in the Vacation Rental Act. It's a residential property for vacation rental. Vacation rental definition, the rental of a residential property. The Residential Tenant Security Deposit Act. And also, it does not apply to Chapter 72. In Chapter 72, the state law is for hotels and bed and breakfasts. And also, you don't have to have a health inspection, like when you see the restaurants where they go and they put that little temperature thing in. Hotels and and inns have to do that, and it specifically excludes residences. And the only reason that I mention that, there's been 2 lawsuits, and they both said, one was about restricting to owner occupied, and also another one was the general covenants, no operating as a business. And both of those were found. The challenge to the short-term rentals were knocked down by appeals court in North Carolina, and they both reinforce the fact that it's residential. And the reason that I'm emphasizing that is because you don't have to put you don't have to put sprinklers, and you don't have to comply with the ADA because it's a residential use. And so I wouldn't want any of the General Assembly to pass any more unconstitutional laws. They want to look at that and make sure they're doing the right thing in that. Okay. Trying to go as fast as I can. 30 seconds, okay. Now, how many are operating in the city right now? It's pretty tricky to say. The report that Asheville commissioned recently didn't say, but we said 350. Barbara was mentioning maybe 800. And what I want to say to that is there's 41,691 total housing stock in Asheville. That means that we're talking about less than 1% of the housing stock is in vacation rentals. It is not a large enough amount to affect housing prices. If you look where Airbnb is started and the rise, and when the county legalized in fall of 2011, our house prices dipped, and then they came back up. There was no correlation. And but most of the stuff I'll conclude with saying we're on board with being registered, complying with safety laws, paying the taxes. Most of the people surveyed in our little survey of Asheville, they made less than $5,000 a year. So it's not a huge moneymaker. And we look forward to working with everybody, having a level playing field, going forward with all eyes open and everybody above board, not afraid to come up and speak about it. Thank you.
I'm Kit Kramer, I'm president of the chamber, and I didn't prepare remarks very specifically because we're here to listen to people today. So many of the issues that have been mentioned are on our list on a regular basis. We're constantly interested in regulation of business, or lack of regulation, more importantly. Taxes are certainly of interest because we're always looking for ways to fund infrastructure. We're interested in safety, we're interested in protection of brand, we're interested in quality of life, all those various things. I think we have, I'm happy to hear that we've got a good degree of commonality, because I think that bodes well for finding a solution. The question for us right now is whether or not that solution should be local or whether it should be state level. And I'm happy to know that there are proponents for looking at a statewide solution for things, because I think consistency is always helpful in this regard. I think we're going to, when you bring more minds to it, we're going to have a better solution than we would if the rules are differing from one section of North Carolina to another. So we're interested in people having a very positive experience when they visit here, but we're also very interested in the people who live here having a positive experience with tourists. I know that I live in a condo downtown, and we allow folks, as part of the condo provisions that I signed, there's a person who has taken on and is doing rentals, and sometimes those folks do live a little bit differently. They behave a little differently than they would if they lived there full time. So there are wrinkles to this that need to be ironed out. And I understand the neighborhood concerns, because having been a neighbor, I get that. But I'm hopeful we can find a solution that will work across the broad cross-section. Your number of, we were discussing the number of less than $5,000, making less than $5,000. That's a pretty telling number, and I know that nobody would want things to get so restrictive that were we ever to host a Super Bowl in Asheville, that we couldn't all take advantage of that. But I mean, there need to be, it needs to be within some reasonable limits. So hopefully we can balance out the needs of both visitors, residents, and businesses. So I appreciate everybody being here today. I'm looking forward to the comments.